Welcome back, dear students. Now, after the importance of morphology in identification and nomenclature, now in this lecture we are going to study the importance of morphology in classification. So, as you know that the morphological characters or external characters of the plants has been used in the identification of the plant, next for the nomenclature or naming of the plant, and now in this lecture here we study the knowledge of morphology in the classification of the plant. Linnaeus, known as the father of taxonomy or father of modern botany, proposed an artificial sexual system of classification based on morphological characters of plants. So Linnaeus, who is known as father of taxonomy or father of modern botany, proposed an artificial sexual system of classification based on the morphological characters of the plant. So he used morphological or external characters of the plant for system of classification. Linnaeus is known as the father of taxonomy or father of modern botany. The best natural system of classification of plants proposed by Bentham and Hooker is also based on comparative morphology. So this is the another one system of classification that has been proposed by Bentham and Hooker, which is based on comparative morphology, which is very important to decide the forms and relationships among us plants in nature. Natural system of classification of plants is most practical and highly useful in nature for the classification of the plant. So another one system of classification that was proposed by Bentham and Hooker, which is known as natural system of classification. So this system has been made on the basis of comparative morphology. So the knowledge of morphology that has been used in the making of natural system of classification by Bentham and Hooker. So this system is most practical and highly useful in nature for the classification of the plants. Later on, Engler and Prandtl proposed the system of classification, and that gives an importance to the morphology along with anatomy and embryology. Presence or absence of flower was the main criteria which divide the whole plant kingdom into phanerogams and cryptogams. So Engler and Prandtl along with the morphology, they use anatomy and embryology. So the morphological character, anatomical character, embryological character that has been used for the classification of the plant. The whole plant kingdom has been classified into phanerogams and cryptogams on the basis of presence or absence of flower. So the presence or absence of flower is the main morphological criteria that had been used for making a classification of whole plant kingdom into two main divisions, that is the phanerogams and cryptogams. The phanerogams are further classified into angiosperm and gymnosperm, mainly on the basis of whether the seeds are enclosed into ovary or exposed outside. So the plant kingdom that has been previously divided into two main divisions, that is the phanerogams and cryptogams, on the basis of presence or absence of flower. So presence of flower, that is the phanerogams, absence of flower, cryptogams. Furthermore, these flowering plants, phanerogams, are classified into angiosperm and gymnosperm on the basis of seeds are enclosed into ovary or exposed outside. So angiosperm plants having seeds which are enclosed into ovary, while gymnosperm the seeds are naked or exposed outside. Furthermore, these angiosperms are classified into two classes on the basis of single or two cotyledons. These are monocotyledons and dicotyledons. So on the basis of number of cotyledon, whether it is a single or two, the complete division of angiosperm has been classified into two classes, monocotyledons and dicotyledons. Then these dicotyledons are separated on the basis of morphology of corolla. If the petals are separate, then the plant is termed as polypetally. If petals are united, gamopetally. If petals are absent, apetally. Apetally, the petals are without petals or petals are absent. Apetally or monoclamidy. In this flower, the perianth is present as there is no differentiation of the flower into petals and sepals. So the term perianth has been used if there is no differentiation between petals and sepals in the flower. So this third one, subclass of the dicot, that is the apetally or monoclamidy, has been made on the basis of petals are absent, because there is a perianth instead of petals. Why perianth? Because there is no difference between the sepals and petals in the flower. So the flowering plants phanerogams are first classified into angiosperms and gymnosperm on the basis of seeds are enclosed into ori or exposed outside. Then angiosperms are classified into two classes, monocotyledons and dicotyledons, on the basis of single or two cotyledons. The dicotyledons are separated on the basis of morphology of corolla. If the petals are free or separate, then the plant is termed as polypetally. Petals united, gamopetally. Petals are absent, apetally, monoclamidy. So in the apetally or monoclamidy, the perianth is present instead of the petals and sepals, because there is no differentiation between the petals and sepals in the flower. So the morphological characters has been used here in the classification. So these petals are separate, petals are united, petals are absent, seeds are enclosed into ori or exposed outside, there is a presence of single cotyledon or two cotyledon. These are the morphological characters, and on the basis of which the plants has been classified into different groups. Polypetally are classified on the basis of prominent thalamus disc or persistent calyx in the flower. Plants with hypogynous ovary and with many stamens in the androecium are grouped under thalamiflory. So hypogynous ovary with many stamens. Further, plants having hypogynous ovary and cushion-like disc around the ovary fall under disciplory. So disc-like thalamus, it is disciplory. Those in which thalamus is in the form of a cup are grouped under calciplory. So these are the morphological characters of the thalamus, on the basis of which the polypetally has been classified into three groups: thalamiflory, disciplory and calciplory. Further, the gamopetally is classified as inferi, because ovary in the flower is inferior in position, while in heteromery the ovary is superior, and bicarpellity as there are two carpels. So ovary is inferior, the group is inferi. Ovary is superior, group is heteromery, and there are two carpels, bicarpellity. So this is the classification of the gamopetally on the basis of position of ovary. If it is inferior, inferi, superior, heteromery, and if there are two carpels in the ovary, then it is bicarpellity. Apetally or monoclamidy is further classified as curve embryo. When the embryo is curved, if many ovules are present, then it is known as multi-ovulity. So this is the classification of apetally or monoclamidy, where perianth is present. There is no distinction between the sepals and petals in the flower. So apetally, where petals are absent, has been classified into curve embryo when embryo is curved. If many ovules are present, then it is known as multi-ovulity. In plants, if the embryo is very small or microscopic, not seen by naked eye, then they are grouped under microspermy. Where embryo is very small or microscopic, so they are grouped under microspermy. If the flower shows only presence of stamens or gynoecium, then this series is known as unisexuals, if there is a presence of only stamens or gynoecium. Okay, if there is a presence of only androecium or gynoecium, the series is unisexuals. Morphological characters are used by all taxonomies because they are easily visible and can be conveniently employed in classification. But recently, more and more microscopic characters of morphology are being used for classification and identification. So the morphological characters has been used in the system of classification because they are easily visible and can be conveniently employed in classification. Furthermore, more and more microscopic characters of morphology are now being used for classification and identification. In morphology, the following characters are used to mark out particular plant or family of the plant. For example, woody and herbaceous characters among plants were used by Hutchinson for separation of dicots in two groups. So Hutchinson made two groups in the dicots on the basis of woody and herby characters. Woody plants as Lignocae and herbaceous plants as Herbaceae. Okay, so these two groups are made on the basis of woody and herbaceous character. Woody plants as Lignocae and herbaceous plants as Herbaceae. Next to this is the underground parts. The character of bulb is important in separation and identification of genus Allium in two species. So underground part, it is the bulb. If the bulb is clustered on rootstock, as in Allium sativum, that is the garlic, and bulb is not clustered in rootstock, in Allium cepa, that is the onion. When the bulb is clustered, it is garlic, that is Allium sativum. If the bulb is not clustered, it is separated, then it is Allium cepa, that is the onion. So the bulb is an underground part of the plant that has been used for identification of genus in two species, that is the Allium sativum and Allium cepa. Next to this is the genus Azadirachta has been separated from Melia on the basis of variation in leaves. So in Azadirachta, the leaves are unipinnately compound, while in Melia these are bipinnately compound. So on the basis of variation in the leaves, the Azadirachta genus has been separated from Melia. The Azadirachta plants has unipinnately compound leaves and Melia has bipinnately compound leaves. Inflorescence is also significant in identification of the plant families. For example, racemose and cymose. These are the two main types of the inflorescence that has been used for the identification of the plant families. However, some of the plant families are recognized by special type of inflorescence. Special type, that is the characteristic of that particular family. For example, Cyatheum is one of the special type of inflorescence, or there are three types of special inflorescences: Cyatheum, Verticillaster, Hypanthodium. So these special type of inflorescence function as a particular characteristic of the plant family. For example, Cyatheum, it is the characteristic of family Euphorbiaceae. Verticillaster, characteristic of family Lamiaceae. Hypanthodium, characteristic of family Moraceae. Capitulum type of inflorescence is the characteristic of family Asteraceae, sunflower family. Umbel, it is the characteristic of family Umbelliferae. Okay, so the particular type of inflorescence function as one of the special morphological character for the recognition of the plant family. Okay, for example, Cyatheum Euphorbiaceae, Verticillaster Lamiaceae, Hypanthodium Moraceae, Capitulum inflorescence Asteraceae, Umbelliferae. Okay, other floral characters are also important in taxonomy. For example, fusion of petals, separated dicots into two subclasses, that we seen also: polypetally, gamopetally. If petals are separate, polypetally. If petals are united, gamopetally. However, presence of perianth is also the striking feature of apetally or monoclamidy, where there is no distinction between sepals and petals. So we use the term perianth. Okay, so it is the striking feature of monoclamidy. So it serves as one of the important morphological character for the classification of the plant. In some families, presence of callus modifications is significant as taxonomic source. For example, Pappus calyx in Asteraceae, persistent calyx in Solanaceae, petaloid calyx in some members of Rubiaceae. So these are the calyx modification. One of the example is the Pappus. So that type of calyx has been found in Asteraceae. Similarly, persistent calyx in Solanaceae, petaloid calyx in some members of Rubiaceae. So this is the modification of the calyx that acts as an important morphological character for grouping of the plants. Stamen number, fixation of anthers, adhesion and cohesion of stamens are important source for taxonomic studies. For example, epipetalous stamens in Gamopetalae, presence of gynostagium and staminal corona in Asclepiadaceae. So these are the examples where the stamen number, fixation of anthers, adhesion and cohesion of stamen. So these are the morphological character serve as important criteria for classification of the plant. So epipetalous stamen in Gamopetalae, presence of gynostagium and staminal corona in Asclepiadaceae. Next is the flowers. So floral characters are also important than other morphological characters. These includes calyx of Lamiaceae, corolla of Fabaceae or Papilionaceae, diadelphous stamens of Fabaceae, carpels in Caryophyllaceae. A gynobasic style is a characteristic of family Lamiaceae. So these are the floral characters which serve as an important characters than the morphological characters. So they can be used for classification of the plant into the different families. The gynostagium is a characteristic of family Asclepiadaceae. Family Euphorbiaceae is characterized by cyathium type of inflorescence where female flower is covered by cluster of male flowers and one stamen represent one male flower. So this is the special characteristic of the inflorescence cyathium which is found in the family Euphorbiaceae. So Euphorbiaceae has been grouped on the basis of cyathium inflorescence. Similarly, gynostagium is one of the important morphological character, or one can say it is a floral character found in the family Asclepiadaceae. Gynobasic style is the characteristic of family Lamiaceae. So these are the floral characters that has been used for the classification of the plants. The evolutionary sequence, origin and interrelationship between different plant groups is often interpreted on the basis of phylogenetic relationships in them. So this is the phylogeny. Now here we are going to study the importance of morphology in phylogeny. So phylogeny is the ancestral relationship between the different plant groups. So the evolutionary sequences, that is the origin, development, interrelationship between different plant groups based on the similarities and differences, and that has been interpreted on the basis of phylogenetic relationship between them. The similarities as well as dissimilarities in morphological features of higher plants like angiosperm and gymnosperm, as well as lower plants like thallophytes, bryophytes, pteridophytes groups had played a major role in tracing the origin of subgroups, classes, orders and families of the above groups of plants. So the morphological similarities and dissimilarities in the plant serve as an important criteria for tracing out the phylogenetic relationship between the different plant groups. So for example, the angiosperm and gymnosperm has been grouped and played a major role in tracing the origin of subgroups, classes, orders, families of the above groups of plants. Similarly, lower plants like thallophytes, bryophytes, pteridophytes, they can also serve as an important morphological features for tracing out the ancestry. So here the morphological features of the characters has been used for evolutionary sequence, origin and interrelationship between different plant groups, that has been interpreted in the form of phylogenetic relationship. The similarities in morphological features clearly indicate the common is ancestral stock from which the subgroups have evolved in algae, fungi and bryophytes. So similarity in the morphological features. So we can group it into the single category or single subgroup. So the similarities in morphological features indicate the common ancestral stock from which the subgroups has been evolved. For example, algae, fungi, bryophytes. The morphology of gametophyte and sporophyte, the size and shape of gametes, gametangia, nature of flagella, size and shape of spores, etc. plays a key role in depicting their phylogeny as well as mono or polyphyletic origin of the plant. So, the morphology of gametophytes, sporophytes, size and shape of gametes, gametangia, nature of flagella, size and shape of spore, etc. These are the morphological characters found to be useful in find out the mono or polyphyletic origin of the plant group, or it has been used for depicting the phylogeny between the lower plants, for example, algae, fungi and bryophytes. So these are the morphological similarities or the differences that has been used in the phylogeny. In pteridophytes, the morphology of gametophytes, Antheridium, Archegonium and sporophyte, including its sporophylls, sori, strobilus or cone, etc. plays a crucial role in tracing the phylogenetic relationship among different orders and families of pteridophytes. So among the pteridophytes, the morphology of Antheridium, Archegonium, sporophyte, including sporophylls, sori, strobilus or cone. So these are the important morphological character plays an important role in tracing the phylogenetic relationship among different orders and families of pteridophytes. In spermatophytes, for example, gymnosperm and angiosperm, one can easily trace out the different evolutionary lines emerging from a common ancestral stock on the basis of morphological similarities. So the spermatophytes, that is gymnosperm and angiosperm, can be easily traced out in different evolutionary lines emerging from a common ancestral stock. In gymnosperm, the morphology of male and female cone size and shape of pollen grains, morphology of oviparous scales, nature of leaves, size, shape, venation pattern, morphology of stem, etc. have paramount importance in illustrating the phylogeny. Phylogeny, it is the tracing of origin, development and the ancestral relationship or interrelationship between different plant groups. So in gymnosperm, the morphology of male and female cone, size and shape of pollen grains, morphology of oviparous scales, nature of leaves, size, shape, venation pattern, morphology of stem. So these are the important morphological character that has been used for tracing the phylogeny. The morphological similarities in most vegetative and reproductive characters of Nettles and angiosperm have helped to conclude that gymnoangiosperm have evolved from Nettalian group, which is also known as proangiosperm. So the morphological similarity in the vegetative and reproductive characters of Nettles and angiosperm. So from these morphological similarities, one can say that this angiosperm has been evolved from the Nettalian group. Thus the similarity in morphological characters have helped to know the phylogeny and origin of angiosperm. The morphological similarity in the vegetative and reproductive characters of Nettles and angiosperm has been studied and concluded that these angiosperm has been originated from the Nettalian group. So the similarities in the morphological characters have helped to know the phylogeny of angiosperm, also the origin of the angiosperm. The most evolved plant group in plant kingdom, for example, angiosperm, today dominates the vegetation on earth, is classified on the basis of morphology of root, stem, leaf and on the basis of morphology of reproductive parts like flowers, sepals, petals, stamens, carpels, pollen grain, fruits, seed, etc. So the angiospermic plants that has been dominates on this planet earth because of the specialized morphological characters, that is the vegetative characters, for example root, stem, leaf. Certain reproductive characters, flowers, sepals, petals, stamens, carpels, pollen grains, fruits, seeds. So this forms the most evolved plant group in the plant kingdom, that is the angiosperm. The phylogenetic relationship among different families of monocot and dicots is explained on the basis of their morphological similarities. In short, morphology has played a major role in explaining the phylogenetic relationships of all cryptograms and phenerograms. So phylogenetic relationship among different families of monocots and dicots has been made on the basis of their morphological similarities. So in short, we say that morphology has played a key role in the explaining the phylogenetic relationships of all cryptograms and phenograms. Okay, so this is the importance of morphology in phylogeny. Then importance of morphology in plant breeding. So this is the last point from this chapter. Importance of morphology in plant breeding. So plant breeding and hybridization is of great importance in crop improvement. Plant breeding, it is mostly concerned with the improvement in the existing crop varieties, or there is a release of new crop varieties on the by using hybridization experiment. So thousands of high yielding and disease resistant hybrid varieties in cereals, millets, pulses, oilseed plants, fiber plants, horticulture, floriculture, fruits and vegetable is the gift of technology of plant breeding. In fact, this branch is the basis of green revolution in India. So the various high yielding and disease resistant varieties that are existing nowadays has been obtained by the knowledge of or by the technology of plant breeding and hybridization. So hybridization is of a great importance in the crop improvement. So here, to perform hybridization experiment and the plant breeding, here the knowledge of morphology has been used. So that I am going to explain here under the heading importance of morphology in plant breeding. The selection of male and female parents in breeding is the first and foremost step which is based on their important morphological features. So parents has been selected for breeding experiment or hybridization experiment on the basis of their morphological features. So these morphological features has been used for the selection of male and female parents in hybridization experiment. The objective of breeding is fixed as per the need, especially to eliminate the drawbacks or demerits in male or female parents by crossing it with superior parents having desirable characters or traits. So the plant breeding has been performed with the objective to eliminate the drawbacks or demerits of existing varieties by crossing male or female parent with superior parents having desirable character. So the desirable character from the superior parent has been transferred into the new variety or into the plant that can be released as a new variety having improved yield and also especially eliminated the specific drawbacks or demerits. So this is the main objective of the plant breeding. Okay, especially to eliminate the drawbacks or demerits in male or female parent. And this has been done by hybridization experiment with superior parents having desirable characters or traits. The traits considered are generally the height of the plant, nature of branching, foliage, phyllotaxy, and more specifically nature of flower, corolla, stamens, carpels, stigma, and the most important is the type of pollination, that is cross pollination or self pollination. So the morphological characters that has been considered in the plant breeding or hybridization experiment is the height of the plant, nature of branching and foliage, phyllotaxis, that is the arrangement of the leaves, more specifically the nature of flower, corolla, stamens. So these are the morphological both vegetative characters and the floral character that has been used for hybridization experiment in the plant breeding. The most important is the type of pollination, that is self pollination or cross pollination, that was also considered here in the hybridization experiment. The ultimate aim of breeding is improvement in yield and its quality. If the yield is considered, the breeder concentrates on size of airhead, grains, pods, fruits, which are almost all the morphological characters. The ultimate aim of breeding improvement or any hybridization experiment is improvement in the yield and its quality. If the yield is considered, the breeder has to be concentrate on the size of airhead, grains, pods, fruits. So these are the quantitative characters that should be considered for hybridization experiment or plant breeding experiment for improvement in the yield and its quality. So all these characters, that is the size of airhead, grains, pods, fruits, these are the morphological character that has been used in the plant breeding. In short, plant breeding also gives emphasis on morphological features. So the morphological characters, whatever they are, the qualitative and quantitative character that has been used in the hybridization experiment for plant breeding. The plant breeding, it is aimed for improvement in yield and quality. It is also aimed to eliminate the demerits or drawbacks that has been present in the existing crop varieties. So this has been done with the help of morphological characters that are has to be selected during the selection of the parents, male and female parents. The main objective of the plant breeding is to eliminate the different drawbacks or the demerits from male and female parents. This has been done by crossing it with the superior parents having desirable characters. So those desirable morphological characters has been selected is the breeder skill, and that has been based on the knowledge of morphology. So these morphological characters has been considered for making improvement in the existing crop varieties or for the release of new crop varieties. Furthermore, if the plant breeding has been carried out for improvement in the yield and its quality, then the breeder has to concentrate on the morphological characters like the size of airhead, grains, pods, fruit. These are the quantitative characters. So this is the importance of morphology in the plant breeding. So this is all in the chapter first, that is the morphology. So in this chapter we studied the definition of morphology, descriptive morphology, then interpretative morphology, importance of morphology in identification, nomenclature, classification, phylogeny, and finally in the plant breeding. So this is about the chapter first, morphology. So this is the introductory chapter in the botany paper second, morphology and anatomy. So this is overall. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe.